A strange horned rabbit stands alert in the snow. Nearby, a young boy in a cloak prepares his attack. He hurls a projectile with surprising force and moves in as his prey is stunned. But then, the world shifts completely. He wakes up confused and in pain. A voice announces that he's finally regained consciousness. His last memory flashes before him, saving a classmate from a speeding truck. His eyes open, processing the final moments of his old life. A doctor asks if he knows who he is. A pretty important question, all things considered. The doctor identifies him as Ishikage Eito, age 16, but our boy lies motionless, unable to respond. The accident has left him paralyzed from the neck down. The doctor then asks a life-changing question. Does he want to move his body again? He proposes a radical solution: experimental VR rehabilitation. With nothing left to lose, Eito accepts the gamble. His silent consent is all they need to begin the procedure. The doctor promises he'll make sure our boy can move again. A totally trustworthy smile, I'm sure. And with that, Eito's consciousness is plugged in. Eito's consciousness plummets into the digital void. He marvels at the sensation of this new world. The first step, character creation. He decides against using his real appearance. After all, this is supposed to be rehab, not a fantasy power trip. So he settles on a small change, just a little tweak to his hair and eyes. And with that, he's welcomed to Alterworld. He realizes with a jolt that he can speak again, but his body isn't quite used to moving yet. He explains his paralysis to a floating orb of light. The orb confirms the details of his accident. A moment of silence passes between them. The orb declares this space is perfect for his recovery. It promises to help him regain control of his body. And so Eito's grueling rehabilitation begins. He spends over 10 hours a day in the VR, even doing homework, because of course there's homework. He pushes himself, preparing for physical therapy in the real world. A month of hard work flies by, and he's finally getting the hang of moving again. He joyfully announces his discharge date has been decided, but the orb reminds him of one small detail: he still needs a job. The game's beta phase is about to end. With no real preference, the orb suggests a random selection, and Eito agrees, leaving it all up to chance. After all, a little unpredictability makes things more interesting. A massive job selection machine materializes before him. The orb explains this is a job gacha with no do-overs. Because what's rehab without a little gambling? The result flashes on screen: support mage. His stats confirm it: a class built for support, not combat. The orb pipes up, calling it a rare class, one that comes with unique skills and significant drawbacks. He can't learn attack spells or equip most weapons, but Eito just laughs it off, finding the challenge amusing. Suddenly, a system alert appears, signaling his time is up. The orb bids him farewell until the official launch. And with a cheerful wave, his rehab/beta test is over. His long and difficult time in the hospital finally comes to a close. Now discharged, Eito pays a visit to someone important. He's back at school, where a classmate apologizes profusely. She recognizes him as Ishikage Eito. Overcome with emotion, she's just glad he's alive. He calls out her name, Oribe, in surprise. She breaks down, confessing she thought he died because of her. The memory of him pushing her to safety is still fresh. Nothing like a tearful reunion to get the whole class staring. The teacher's arrival puts a merciful end to the spectacle. He formally announces Eito's successful discharge from the hospital, but Eito just smiles, glad that Oribe is safe. With the teacher's announcement over, Eito makes a quick exit, but Oribe turns around to find him already gone. She quietly says his name, a hint of disappointment on her face. Meanwhile, Eito arrives back at his house. He slumps over, exhausted from his first day back. Even with all his VR training, the real world is still a challenge. He knows he still has a long way to go to regain his strength. But today is a special day, the official launch of Alterworld. He eagerly pulls out the familiar VR headset. After all, rehab can wait when a new game drops. And with a wide grin, he connects once more. The familiar logo of Alterworld appears before him. The sensation of logging in is still a little jarring. He materializes in a peaceful forest clearing. A small, harmless-looking creature hops nearby. But he's not alone. Something much larger stirs in the bushes. He takes it all in, his excitement palpable. This is Alterworld. Almost immediately, a system notification appears. It's a welcome-back gift from his old rehab guide, the Orb. A special robe and a gathering knife materialize on his person. He also checks his titles, only to find achievements for playing solo. The game is basically calling him a loner. He laments that his first title is basically good friend. He realizes his rehab training never included any actual combat, and a nearby creature seems to have noticed. But Edo recalls he has skills that normal players can't get. Just as the horned rabbit lunges at him with blinding speed, he barely has time to register the sudden assault. A system window identifies his attacker, a level 2 Vorpal bunny. The tiny creature launches a powerful kick straight for his head. But strangely, its movements seem to be in slow motion, a familiar sensation. Just like the moment before the truck hit him. He realizes he can dodge the attack, and with a quick sidestep, he avoids the kick. He grabs the first thing he can find, a rock, and hurls it with surprising accuracy. His first kill nets him a level up. He then uses his new knife to gather materials, unlocking his first skill, martial arts. A support mage who can't even use magic yet. The irony is not lost on him. He spots some fruit called afrins nearby, and begins gathering them for later. But his moment of peace is quickly shattered. A pack of forest wolves blocks his path. He panics as the wolves begin to close in. He scrambles up the nearest tree, unlocking a new skill. Because of course he does. Safe from the wolves, but now he can't get down. He tries one of the fruits, noting its ordinary taste. He decides this is as good a time as any for a rest. A prompt warns him that logging out here will leave his body behind. With a shrug, he confirms the logout, and his consciousness fades back to reality. Back in reality, Edo wonders what's become of his character. He logs back in, relieved to find himself still safely up the tree, and he's immediately greeted with a notification for a new title, one that grants him immunity to all mental status effects. Apparently logging out while cornered makes you fearless. Knowing he can't rely on trees forever, he forms a new plan. He gets to work, gathering materials from the forest floor, and crafts himself a homemade ghillie mantle. As the twin moons rise, he decides it's time for a field test. His target, a little payback against the wolves from earlier. The mantle works perfectly, and he's even picked up a new skill. He finds the wolf pack again, though their numbers have thinned. For the first time, he's facing multiple opponents at once, but his eyes are filled with a newfound confidence. He activates his new skill, mimicry, and vanishes from the wolf's sight. He recalls a simple fact. Most animals have a weak spot on their nose. A very specific weak spot, but sure, let's go with it. With perfect aim, he hurls a rock at the lead wolf and rushes in to press his advantage. But the rest of the pack is not about to let that slide. He slams into the second wolf, taking it down. The last remaining wolf howls in fury. It lunges at Edo with jaws wide open, but our boy's eyes are calm and focused. He meets the beast head-on with a powerful strike. The final wolf is sent tumbling to the ground, but the sudden victory leaves him dizzy. A flood of notifications announces his level up. He's won, but the exhaustion is overwhelming. Time to log out and get some actual rest. Back in the real world, Edo relaxes after his intense session. He remembers that with his parents working abroad, he's on his own, and the exhaustion of his daily routine quickly sets in. But his mind is already back in the game, planning his next strategy. It's the first day of summer vacation, after all. Priorities. He puts on the headset and connects once more, only to find the world completely upside down. A wave of pure confusion washes over him. He's been caught in the web of a giant, fluffy spider. Elsewhere, the orb ponders the very existence of the support mage class. It reveals the support mage class was made as a joke. Meanwhile, Ido pleads not to be eaten in one bite. The orb can only conclude that this must be fate. Back in reality, Edo had just logged in for the day, only to find himself hanging upside down in a web. He continues to beg for his life. So much for a relaxing vacation. The giant spider speaks, surprised to find a traveler. It looms closer, asking why he was sleeping in its territory. Edo can only stare back in absolute terror. The spider warns him that a wrong answer will be his last. Edo quickly explains he was just resting after fighting off some wolves. The spider asks if the wolf carcasses were meant as some kind of offering. It had mistaken him for a sacrifice, a notion Edo is quick to correct. The creature seems surprised that its potential meal can speak. He begs not to be eaten, but the spider finds him too amusing for that. The giant spider introduces herself as Atra Il Nado and asks for his name. Now free from the web, he gives the name Hachi. A solid alias, if you ask me. Taking a liking to him, she decides to lead him somewhere special. Left alone for a moment, Edo takes the chance to review his newly acquired skills. He wonders how best to utilize abilities like Flash and Rest. Hachi, riding atop Atra, asks where exactly they're headed. She tells him not to be impatient, as they're almost there. With a final push through the trees, she announces their arrival. They've come to a village, but its inhabitants are unusual. A bandaged figure greets them, noting it's their first visit to Altea. Hachi realizes with a jolt that this isn't a human settlement at all. It's a village of monsters, and Atra announces her return to the crowd. How's that for a welcome wagon? The various monsters seem to be communicating with the giant spider, but Hachi can't understand a word of what they're saying. Atra then turns her attention back to him, deciding to give him a gift. A system window reveals a new passive skill, one that lets him speak with certain NPCs. Hachi is confused, as the monsters around him identify him as a traveler. They all wonder what a human is doing in their village. He gets the distinct and uncomfortable feeling that he's not welcome. But Atra silences the crowd with a single sharp command. The monsters immediately quiet down, their attention fixed on her. She then lifts Hachi into the air, bestowing upon him a new title. Shameless, a reward for surviving alone in the wild that boosts his stats by 20%, but only when he's solo. Atra notes that his existence transcends mere loneliness, which sounds suspiciously like an insult. Hachi panics, realizing that teaming up would actually make him weaker. Hachi can only process the insult hidden within his new title, but the other monsters suddenly swarm him with a warm welcome. He's swept up in a surprisingly friendly group hug. Atra watches from afar, pleased that he's been accepted. Hachi asks with a hopeful smile if he can really stay here. The villagers cheer, their approval echoing through the clearing. A fountain bubbles at the center of the bustling monster village. Walking with his new companions, he asks about the village's origins. An elf-like woman explains that Atra built this place for outcasts. She proudly declares that their leader is unbelievably strong. Hachi turns to his new companions and asks for their names, but the villagers confess they don't have any. In this place, only their leader Atra is named. Hachi thinks for a moment, a plan forming in his mind. He points to the skeleton, naming him Waria. The elf-like woman is now Donarch, and the little blood slime becomes Chino Rin. He proudly asks them what they think of their new names. He admits he just based them on their species. A for effort, I guess. But they're overjoyed, immediately embracing their new identities and their new friend. The newly named trio celebrates their identities. Donarch asks what Hachi plans to do now, and he suggests exploring. But Waria seems concerned about that idea. He explains that goblins have been spotted lurking around the village. He warns Hachi to be careful, even if they're no threat to the villagers. Donarch cheerfully tells him to be back by nightfall, and with a confident wave, Hachi heads out. He ventures into the woods, still in awe of this virtual world. With the sun still high, he has plenty of time to look around. He quickly spots some interesting-looking plants. Hachi immediately gets to work, examining the local flora. A system window identifies it as Incree grass, a useful enhancement material. He realizes this is the perfect catalyst for crafting, and to his delight, the entire area is covered in it. He decides to gather some carefully, trying not to disrupt the ecosystem. Such a good boy. But the sheer abundance of herbs is almost overwhelming. He quickly amasses a collection of rare and useful plants. With his inventory full, he decides it's time to get to work. He pulls out a special gift he received, a large medicine grinder, and begins adding the herbs he just collected into the device. He admits he has no idea what he's doing. But a moment later, a spark of inspiration hits. He proudly presents his first creation, a crude but effective healing item. But the description mentions a bitter taste, and curiosity gets the better of him, a decision he immediately and violently regrets. The ordeal unlocks a new skill, survival arts, perfect for a wilderness lifestyle. He wanders the forest, realizing he's essentially been exiled from normal towns. The word survival echoes in his mind, triggering another idea. He combines his new knowledge with the materials he's gathered, and crafts an upgraded version of his trusty ghillie mantle. He admires his handiwork, noting its new, more durable properties. He chuckles, imagining the villagers' reactions to his new look. But his triumphant moment is cut short by a sudden dawning horror. He looks around, completely disoriented. He's hopelessly, utterly lost. Turns out getting engrossed in herb gathering has its downsides. Who knew? He recalls the golden rule of being lost. Don't move around aimlessly. But through the canopy, he spots a massive, distinct tree in the distance. A spark of hope ignites. From that vantage point, he might find the village. With a new plan in mind, he sprints toward his goal without a second thought. But his mad dash is quickly cut short. The forest is teeming with monsters blocking his path. He knows his mimicry skill alone won't be enough. And with nightfall fast approaching, he's running out of time. He suddenly recalls a skill perfect for this situation. A jolt of inspiration hits him. He activates the flash skill he acquired earlier. A brilliant light erupts from his hands, stunning the creatures and resetting their aggro. With a path now clear, his confidence returns. He combines his skills, using flash and mimicry in quick succession, a perfect combo to blind his pursuers and then disappear. He finally stops to catch his breath, completely spent. But he's made it to the base of the giant tree. Hachi smiles, proud of his progress but knowing he needs more levels. The tree is even more massive up close than he imagined. Now all he has to do is climb it to get his bearings. Easy, right? Just then, a new notification pops up. He's earned the title One Who Lurks in the Darkness for his expert-level cowardice. Meanwhile, the monsters are still waiting for him below. But a sudden noise from below catches his attention. He remembers Warrior's warning about goblins in the area. Peering down from the tree, he sees something moving. It's a small band of goblins, just as he was told. But they don't seem to be on the hunt. Instead, they're fleeing from an unseen threat. Hachi watches them, trying to understand the situation. Warrior's words echo in his mind, now carrying more weight. He then notices they're protecting someone in their midst. The goblins argue frantically, their princess's power fading. So much for a relaxing climb. The goblins quickly duck into a nearby cave for cover. They argue amongst themselves, admitting their strength isn't enough. Hachi listens from his perch, trying to make sense of it all. He deduces that they're not hunting, but are being hunted themselves. But with the sun setting, he knows he can't reach the giant tree. He can't help but wonder what a goblin princess looks like, and his imagination is not kind. Suddenly, a torch is lit from within the cave, and Hachi's eyes go wide with surprise. The princess is a small elven girl who seems to be offering herself as a bride. He's so stunned he physically recoils, shocked that she's actually beautiful. Hachi's sudden appearance startles one of the goblins. The rest of the group turns, equally stunned by the intrusion. They immediately draw their weapons, forming a protective circle around their princess. Hachi realizes he's stumbled into a very tense situation. He quickly raises his hands, trying to show he's not a threat. They demand to know what a human is doing here, as Hachi frantically explains he's just lost. But the princess steps forward, telling her guards to stand down. She asks if he can understand their language, and Hachi nervously confirms he can. She immediately accuses him of being one of their pursuers, a claim he quickly denies. He insists he was just happily exploring the area for the first time. A totally believable story. He explains he got carried away by the local flora, and in his excitement he completely lost his way. His only goal was to climb the tree to find the village. The princess seems to find his story amusing. So amusing, in fact, that she can't hold back her laughter. Her guards relax, sensing no malice from the human. She asks for his name, and he introduces himself as Hachi. In return, she reveals her title, the Goblin Princess. She explains that she only recently gained her title, and an ogre immediately showed up to propose. Because of course he did. When she refused his proposal, the ogre destroyed their entire village. She tried to lead her people to safety, but the ogre's pursuit was relentless. They've already lost many of their comrades on the journey here. She admits she initially mistook Hachi for one of the ogre's men, and now she urges him to leave before he gets dragged into their mess. Hachi listens, processing the direness of their situation. The goblins apologize for holding him up, but Hachi says that his own plan hasn't changed. He'll just scout for the ogre while he's up there, a classic 2-for-1 deal. The princess gratefully accepts his offer as the sun begins to set. With a clear goal in mind, Hachi begins his climb, and the game rewards his efforts with a skill upgrade. He spots a strange nest along the way, but pushes onward, finding a suitable vantage point. He's relieved to see the village isn't far off. Now for the second part of his mission, locating the ogre. He scans the horizon and spots movement in the distance. There he is, the spurned suitor himself. And to Hachi's horror, the beast is heading right for them. He scrambles down the tree, racing to warn the others. He tumbles back into the cave, landing ungracefully before the princess. He frantically warns them that the ogre is right behind him. The news sends a wave of despair through the small group. The princess sees no other choice but to sacrifice herself until a new idea forms. Hachi extends a hand, urging them to follow him to the outcast village. The goblins are confused, asking if that's where he was headed. The princess worries if they'll even be welcome there. Hachi admits he honestly has no idea. A truly inspiring leader, but he's sure that a village of outcasts will help others in need. His simple faith leaves the princess and her guards speechless. With their fate now in his hands, the goblins cheer. He leads the refugees back to the village entrance. But his friends are less than thrilled to see his new entourage. Donark immediately confronts him, demanding to know what's going on. He nervously tries to explain that it's a very long story. She listens to his tale with a weary sigh. She can't believe the new guy is already causing this much trouble. But then she grins, eager for the chance to fight. Hachi immediately suggests evacuating the non-combatants first, and little Chinorin bounces off to spread the word. With the battle looming, Hachi lays out his gathered materials. He gets to work, combining the various herbs and shells. He crafts a variety of poison, paralysis, and bleeding orbs. The goblins watch on as he explains his next step, to combine them all into a single potent projectile. He declares this will be their trump card for the coming fight. A support mage's idea of a welcome basket. But his moment of triumph is cut short by a sudden tremor. The ogre has arrived and he's brought a friend. Their only strategy is to hold out until Atra can get there. But they all know a single hit from the beast means instant death. Hachi sees the ogre's wide swing coming. He knows he can dodge a telegraphed attack like that. And with a quick dash, he slips right past the beast. He immediately hurls one of his special orbs. It smacks the ogre directly in the face. He winds up for another throw, not letting up. The beast stumbles back, stunned by the sudden pain. And it crashes to the ground, completely disoriented. A face full of poison will do that to a guy. One of the goblins sees an opening and charges forward. But Hachi yells that he's not done yet. The ogre roars back to its feet, enraged by the assault. Hachi realizes his attacks are working, but they're not a decisive blow. He's taking damage himself, the strain of the fight wearing him down. He prepares his final gambit, the trump card he crafted earlier. But the ogre swings its massive arm and sends Hachi flying with a brutal backhand. Just then, his friends from the village arrive, ready for a fight. Hachi smiles, relieved to see the cavalry has finally shown up. He tells them to deliver the finishing blow as he hurls his last projectile with everything he has left. But as he falls, he activates a desperate skill, Rest. A risky move, but one he has to take. It's a gamble that will fully restore his health and mana, but leaves him vulnerable to double damage. A high-stakes nap, if you will. Meanwhile, his friends engage the enraged ogre. Hachi lies motionless, his skill now active. A moment later, his eyes open, and his friends call out to him. They're barely holding the line against the beast's onslaught. The goblins know they can't retreat, urging everyone to hold on. But Hachi rises to his feet, declaring he's fine. He declares that with his health fully restored, he believes they now have a chance to win. The others look on, asking if he has a plan. Hachi confirms with a confident smile. His grand strategy is for them to throw him directly at the rampaging ogre. His allies are understandably confused. As the beast continues its assault in the background, Hachi eagerly repeats his insane request. They can only stare, dumbfounded by his logic, or lack thereof. His allies try to make sense of his bizarre request, but Hachi insists he wants to land the final blow himself. The goblin princess looks on, worried but trusting. One of her guards points out the obvious flaw. He's out of ammo. But Hachi has another idea, recalling the princess's banner. He asks if she can use enhancement magic, and she confirms she can. With the villagers trapped by the sunlight, they have no choice but to fight. His plan is simple. Have the princess buff their strongest fighter to throw him. He'll become a living projectile, aimed right at the ogre's face. Donark calls the plan insane, but Hachi insists he's fine. After all, he just had a nap. The goblin princess agrees, preparing to enhance everyone's power. Waria sighs, accepting that Hachi's mind is made up. He then nominates their strongest member for the throwing duty. With everyone in position, Donark readies the human cannonball. She uses her immense strength to create a makeshift catapult. And with a mighty heave, Hachi is launched into the air. The princess's magic envelops him in a brilliant light. He spins like a drill, hurtling towards his target, aiming for a direct hit on the ogre's head. The impact sends the massive beast flying backward, but Hachi quickly realizes he can't stop. He sails through the air with a terrified scream and lands ungracefully somewhere in the forest. He looks back, wondering if his insane plan actually worked. The ogre's massive body teeters for a moment, before crashing to the ground, defeated. Hachi looks on, a smile of pure disbelief on his face. The battlefield erupts in cheers as he jumps from level 4 to 15. The goblin princess rushes to his side, tearfully scolding him for his recklessness. And so, the long war between the goblins and the ogre is finally over. With the battle over, Hachi asks what to do with the ogre's body. Atra tells him it's his kill, so the spoils are his to claim. Hachi eagerly gets to work, wondering what treasures he'll find. He gathers a collection of claws, fangs, and horns from the beast. But a strange glowing crystal also appears in his inventory. Donark explains it's a magic stone, a crystal of pure magical energy. She adds that travelers often use them for crafting powerful gear, for people who can actually use weapons. Hachi then turns, looking for the goblin princess, but she refuses his offer, unable to accept a trophy from the monster who destroyed her home. Hachi understands, offering a comforting pat on the head instead. With the battle won, Hachi calls out to everyone. Just then, Atra arrives, ready to punish the intruder. Hachi sheepishly informs her that they've already won. Realizing she's late, her attention turns to the goblins. Nothing like missing the party you were supposed to host. The goblin princess flinches under the giant spider's gaze. She quickly introduces herself with a formal bow. Having heard their story, Atra offers them a home in the village. The princess is overcome with joy, tearfully accepting the offer. With the crisis averted, Hachi asks where he can finally rest. But the goblin princess calls out his name from behind. Overcome with emotion, she thanks him again and again. Hachi simply waves goodbye as he logs out for the day. His consciousness returns to his quiet home. Ado wakes up, the morning sun streaming in. He's eager to play more, but real-life chores come first. He realizes he's out of detergent and needs to run an errand. Even heroes have to do laundry. He quickly makes a trip to the local store. While there, he spots an official guide for Alter World. But a familiar voice suddenly calls out his real name. He turns to find Oribe, who can't believe they've met again. Ado laughs awkwardly, admitting he's not used to the attention. Oribe apologizes for her emotional display back at school. She then asks what he was looking at, noticing the game guide. Her eyes light up as she asks if he's also interested in Alter World. Her sudden enthusiasm gets a little too close for comfort. Ado makes a quick exit, but she calls out his name one last time. He practically flees the store. Social interaction is clearly his final boss. Back home, he realizes he panicked because she also plays the game. He puts on his headset, wondering if they'll ever cross paths in-game. And with that thought, he connects to the virtual world once more. Hachi logs back into the bustling monster village. He wakes up with a start, feeling a bit disoriented. The goblin princess panics, surprised he's already conscious. Hachi can only look back, confused. He wonders if time flows differently in the game. He pops up behind her, asking what she was up to. She flushes, insisting she wasn't doing anything at all. Totally believable. Hachi cheerfully suggests they go exploring together. The princess quickly shoos him away from her tent. He looks back, a little confused but ready for his next adventure. Hachi's journey takes him to the snowy foothills of Alphen Mountain. He's immediately greeted by a new monster, the Slate Wolf, and a brilliant, if slightly unhinged, idea begins to form. He reviews his new skills, all focused on manipulating stats. He's finally starting to feel like a proper support mage, but then he wonders if these skills can be used on enemies. He approaches the wolf, asking it to be his test subject. Because consent is optional in VR, he activates Libra, swapping the wolf's defense for its intelligence. The beast is left utterly confused as its stats are scrambled. And with a quick cast of rest, he puts the defenseless creature to sleep. With its attack power gone, he just has to chip away at its health. He pummels the sleeping wolf until it's finally defeated, and he celebrates his hard-earned, totally fair victory. He realizes this is a safe way to hunt, as long as he's careful with his MP. With the battle won, he pulls out his knife to gather materials, but his moment of triumph is cut short by a sudden shadow. A massive, feathered creature descends, calling out to the human below. Hachi looks up, nervously asking what it could possibly want. The creature is pleased that he can understand its language. It then demands that he hand over the wolf's carcass. Hachi points to the wolf, asking if this is what it wants. The creature explains that its eggs have hatched, but an injury has left it unable to hunt. Hachi thinks for a moment, recalling something about a large bird's egg. He remembers the nest he saw while scouting for the ogre. The bird admits it saw him then, glad it chose not to attack. Having explained its situation, the creature turns to leave, but then it swoops back, deciding to give him a gift. By unceremoniously kidnapping him right off the ground, his initial shock quickly turns into pure exhilaration. He soars through the sky, getting a tour of the mountain range. Hachi asks if the creature's injury is serious. It assures him it's fine as they soar through the air. The creature then warns him about a dangerous night on this mountain. They finally arrive at its nest, perched high on a cliff. The bird announces its return, surprised to see the egg has already hatched. A fluffy chick bursts out, chirping a happy welcome. Hachi is immediately captivated by the adorable creature. The chick stares back with wide, innocent eyes. The mother bird then offers her child its first meal. Hachi can only laugh nervously at the brutal display of affection. Nature is metal, I guess. Hachi formally introduces himself and asks for their names. The mother bird explains that monsters don't typically have names, so she suggests that Hachi should be the one to name them. He dubs the mother Par-Rai and the little chick Ho-Rai. The moment the name is given, the chick begins to glow. It suddenly grows in size, evolving right before their eyes. The mother is overjoyed, thanking Hachi for triggering the evolution. The grateful chick decides to offer Hachi a gift in return. It drops a severed human arm at his feet. As a thank you. Hachi can only stare at the gruesome present, wondering where it even came from. A system window identifies the gruesome gift as a regenerating doll's arm. Pare then offers a gift of her own. A massive glowing feather materializes, an epic-level mount item. He stares in awe at the massive feather in his hands. She explains it can be used to glide, and Hachi is overjoyed. As darkness falls, he realizes it's time to return to the village. She offers him a ride, but he wants to test his new toy. He waves goodbye, planning to ask Atra about the strange arm later. He channels his magic into the feather, which crackles with energy, a decision he immediately regrets as he's sent tumbling. He lands in a heap, admitting this is harder than it looks. But after a few tries, he starts to get the hang of it. A moment of pure joy as he finally finds his balance, which immediately turns to terror as he's launched forward. He rockets through the forest in an uncontrollable blur. He recognizes the path, a manic grin on his face. His new feather is less of a glider and more of a rocket sled. The sheer speed is exhilarating and absolutely terrifying. He spots the village gate and calls out to anyone who might be there, and Waria turns, surprised by Hachi's sudden chaotic arrival. He yells for everyone to get out of the way, and crashes spectacularly at the village gate. The impact completely shatters Waria into a pile of bones. Hachi can only stare, wondering what he's just done. His mind races, imagining being charged with vehicular manslaughter, and facing the wrath of their very intimidating leader Atra. But Waria's skull tells him to stop panicking and fix him. The commotion draws the attention of the Goblin Princess. Her guards explain that Hachi's grand entrance was the cause of all this. Hachi can only apologize, admitting he has no idea how to put a skeleton back together. The Goblin Princess directs the delicate operation of putting Waria back together, with one final piece snapped into place. Waria is fully reassembled, feeling better than ever. Hachi then offers him a spare part he found after the crash, an epic-level bone that converts strength into magic power. You know, just a spare part. Not to be outdone, little Chino-Rin bounces over to offer its thanks. Hachi gives the slime a vial of wolf's blood he'd gathered. The creature eagerly absorbs the offering and transforms it into a powerful blood amulet. Hachi happily accepts the gift, grateful for his new friends. The Goblin Princess seems hesitant to leave her tent. Hachi asks Waria where he can find Atra, but the princess suddenly runs up, calling his name. He asks if she's settling into her new life here. She shyly reveals that she's made something for him. It's a powerful amulet, a gift to protect him from harm. Hachi is left speechless by the gesture. He realizes this is what she was working on all morning. With a gentle pat on the head, he gratefully accepts. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery looks on, completely unimpressed. With his new gift secured, Hachi calls out for Atra. The giant spider appears, asking what he could possibly want now. She brushes off his thanks, clearly not one for pleasantries. She then asks if he found anything interesting on the mountain. Hachi admits there is one thing he wanted to ask her about. He presents the strange, severed arm he received as a gift. Atra's eyes widen, her expression shifting instantly. Hachi looks on, realizing this is far more serious than he thought. She tells him this is a conversation best had elsewhere. A quest window appears, revealing the arm is a divine relic from the Age of Gods. Hachi can only stare, repeating the words legacy quest. Atra begins to tell a story from long ago, of a time when gods and monsters waged war for control of the entire world. She explains the arm is a relic from that very Age of Gods, a time when a human like him would have been utterly insignificant. Hachi's mind reels, asking if Atra herself is from that ancient time. But their conversation is interrupted by another monster. Atra turns, seemingly unconcerned by the intrusion. The focus returns to the mysterious arm, the key to this ancient past. The new monster reveals the arm belonged to an old acquaintance. It offers the divine relic to Hachi, calling their meeting a work of fate, and asks him to find the remaining parts to restore it. Hachi refuses to accept such a rare item for free, but the creature insists. It explains that it has no personal use for the arm, so Hachi offers his most prized possessions as collateral. He declares that because they're so important, he'll definitely be back for them. A pretty solid motivational tool. The monster, now identified as Vaya, agrees to the terms. Hachi accepts the quest, though he has no clue where to even start looking. He turns to Vaya, hoping the ancient creature might have a lead. Vaya suggests Donark might know more before disappearing into the woods. Hachi decides he'll also ask Parai where she found the arm. He finds Donark humming to herself while carrying a massive log. He runs up, eager to ask her about the divine relic. She turns, asking what he could possibly want, but her expression quickly changes as she announces it's time for breakfast. Priorities, I guess. Hachi is surprised, asking if she's really going to cook. He eagerly volunteers to give it a try himself. Donark just laughs and tells him to help her out. She sets down the log, ready to get started. Hachi complains that this is a lot more work than he expected. Donark just laughs, reminding him it's his fault for bringing in new residents. He then asks what other kinds of monsters live in the village. She thinks for a moment, trying to list them all. There's Waria and Chino-Rin, of course. She explains Waria is their resident gardener, a skeleton with a green thumb, apparently. The village is also home to mimics and harpies, and the goblins he rescued are already helping with construction. She adds that there are others he'll meet eventually. Everyone here uses their unique skills to help the community grow. Donark proudly declares that cooking is her specialty. She explains that in this village, even simple skills make you a hero. Hachi smiles, taking her words to heart. They arrive at the village's outdoor kitchen. Hachi eagerly rolls up his sleeves for his first cooking lesson. He admits he's only ever made simple meals in the real world. Donark laughs, promising to be a gentle teacher. She then reveals today's main ingredient, a mountain of Vorpal bunnies. The first step is to carefully prepare the meat. Hachi gets to work, skinning the creature with surprising focus. He seasons the meat with a flourish, only to realize he's out of salt. Donark cheers him on as he struggles to start a fire the old-fashioned way. Soon, the smell of roasting meat fills the air as everyone waits hungrily. The result is a perfectly cooked Vorpal bunny roast. He and Donark proudly serve the meal to their friends. The entire village gathers for a well-deserved feast. Hachi takes his first tentative bite, and his eyes widen in surprise. It's actually delicious. The meat is crispy on the outside and perfectly juicy on the inside. Who knew a support mage could cook? He immediately asks for seconds, and Donark is happy to oblige. With the feast over, Hachi expresses his sincere gratitude. Donark thanks him in return for all his help. As a reward, she offers him a powerful, epic-level brooch. Hachi is stunned, but she confirms it's made from her own scales. With the meal finished, she finally asks what was on his mind. He explains he's looking for information on the mysterious Vaya. She points to a distant mountain, explaining Vaya lives in a cave at its foot. She warns him that Vaya can be a bit difficult to deal with. She suggests he bring a gift, handing him a pickaxe to find some rare gems. And while he's at it, she asks him to grab some rock salt for their cooking. Multitasking is key, even in a fantasy world. With his new quest in mind, Hachi heads for the mountains. He follows Donark's directions to a promising ore vein. He spots a glowing patch and swings his pickaxe with all his might. But the impact barely leaves a scratch on the rock face. The recoil sends a painful jolt through his entire body. He realizes there must be a trick to mining this stuff. Brute force clearly isn't the answer. After a few more tries, he finally gets the hang of it. He gathers plenty of rock salt and some iron ore for the village. But now he needs to find the gems for Vaya. He spots a large, glittering stone further up the cliffside. A system window identifies it as Awenite, an epic-level gem. Hachi is stunned by its rarity, but realizes he needs to get it appraised. He knows the village lacks the equipment to refine or even identify it. He crosses his arms, pondering his next move. But then he grins, deciding this mystery rock is the perfect gift for Vaya. With his inventory reaching its limit, he knows it's time to go. And with his new goal set, he eagerly heads for the cave. His journey takes him further into the rugged mountain terrain. He finally arrives at a hidden cave, its entrance covered in ice. Hachi looks up in awe, surprised to find it so easily. He steps into the darkness, realizing he should have brought a torch. But with his goal in sight, he decides to press on regardless. He's not alone as strange creatures drip from the ceiling. But the darkness gives way to a cavern of glowing crystals. He considers taking one as a gift, but hesitates to touch it. Suddenly, the cavern wall begins to crack and shatter. Hachi can only stare in shock as something emerges. A massive serpentine creature bursts from the rock, towering over him with an intimidating presence. So much for a simple mining trip, and a voice echoes through the cavern, addressing him directly. Hachi nervously asks if this is the great Vaya. The creature roars, demanding to know his business. The sheer force of its voice pushes him back. It questions why a human would dare approach its lair. Hachi flinches, completely intimidated by the display. He stammers, trying to explain he has a question. He asks if Vaya knows anything about certain parts. The creature asks if he's referring to the doll's arm. Hachi confirms he's searching for the remaining pieces. He explains he was told Vaya might have some answers. Vaya glares, asking what he'd do with that information. Hachi realizes Donark's warning was an understatement. He quickly apologizes for the intrusion and presents the gem he found as a peace offering. The creature's eyes widen in absolute shock. It identifies the stone as a rare Awenite gem. The beast is completely captivated by its beauty. Turns out even ancient monsters appreciate a little bling. Vaya quickly regains its composure, a little flustered. It explains that most visitors are just greedy thieves. Vaya admits that Hachi is different from the others. It then reveals the parts he seeks are at the bottom of the lake. Hachi's face lights up with excitement. Vaya, in a surprisingly good mood, offers to guide him. A guide that involves being shoved into the icy water. He struggles to hold his breath in the freezing depths. The pain is real, but he reminds himself it's just a game. A very, very cold game. He watches his breath meter rapidly depleting. Vaya explains its hobby of collecting things from upstream, before remembering that humans can't actually breathe underwater. Whoops! Vaya casually grants him the ability to breathe underwater. Hachi gasps out a thank you, realizing he was moments from drowning. The creature muses on how fragile humans are, just like Atra always says. But Hachi's attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. A school of monstrous fish swarms toward him. He panics, realizing he's trapped with a new threat. He throws a desperate punch, trying to fend them off, and follows up with a kick, fighting against the current. But the sheer number of them is overwhelming. He can't land a single clean hit on the agile creatures. He realizes he has no way to fight back. The creatures swarm him from every direction, but he knows his goal is just within reach. Vaya sighs, finding the human to be a handful. The massive beast opens its jaws, and Hachi looks up, wondering what's coming now. Unleashing a powerful blast of energy into the water, the smaller fish are instantly stunned by the attack. Hachi can only stare, completely in awe of the display. Vaya asks if he's okay, noting he barely survived. Vaya asks why he didn't just use a weapon. Hachi sheepishly explains his class can't do that. The creature asks why he doesn't just change jobs. A very valid question, all things considered. But Hachi says he's grown attached to the challenge. Vaya seems to accept his strange logic. And then, it spots something in the distance. It proudly announces their arrival at its treasure trove. Hachi's eyes go wide at the sight of the sunken hoard.